Hello everyone and welcome to a new virtual pet video. In this video I'll be reviewing the Digimon Pendulum Cycle, which is Bandai Asia's version of the original Digimon Pendulum. So as you may recall from my Digimon Pendulum review, the Pendulum original started at version 1, went on to 2, 3, 4 and 5 and finished at 0. And each version was one of the typings for Digimon. So we have Nature Spirits being version 1, 2 being Deep Savers, 3 being Nightmare Soldiers, 4 being Wind Guardians, 5 being Metal Empire, and then the 0 being the Virus Busters. Now, you may notice that there are 4 versions of the Pendulum Cycle here, and I have one of each version. So we start at the version 7, then we've got version 8, version 9, version 10. So we've got Deep Savers, Nightmare Soldiers, Wind Guardians, and Metal Empire. So you may be wondering, where's the 1, why does it start at version 7? 2, why does it start at Deep Savers? And that's because Bandai Asia actually released the version 6 here, which I have spoken about in previous videos. So this was unique to Australia and was released by Bandai Asia, and it more or less had the Nature Spirits roster from the Pendulum 1. Except it's a brick, there was no Jogress, and it didn't go up to the final level. It only stopped at Perfect or Ultimate in the English dub. So these are pretty cool to have, but it starts at 6. It's still a brick, it's not a pendulum, and as I said, none of those extra levels or extra mechanics. So then they changed the shape one to, this one's actually the one with batteries in it because I'm playing with this one at the moment. Instead of the square shape of the pendulum, or even the square shape of the rectangle shape of the brick, rather rectangle, not square, we have this sort of oval-shaped, pill-shaped toy. So that's fairly unique to it. So there's a couple of things, and I know I've spoken about these toys in a couple of videos just because they're fairly weird and fairly unique, so I'll just go over it briefly again. The unique thing about the cycle is that it actually reverts back to the child form or the rookie form at the end of every day. So this means that you can actually get all the way to Super Ultimate, or to the secret level as it's called in this version, is you can get to that version that level just before noon basically. And yeah, so that's pretty nifty. Or you can wait all day and only stay at child if you don't actually fill any requirements. The other interesting thing is obviously it's a pendulum, so it has the shake, and that is used for training and for jogressing and battling. And so yeah, which is this more or less the same as the original pendulum, except and it also smiles when it poops. So yeah, the thing that it has different from the original pendulum, besides the reverting to child every day, at the end of every day, is that one, the evolution requirements are primarily weight-based. So if you take very good care of your baby Digimon, when you evolve to child, you will actually get a virus type, and that's because you probably trained it down to the minimum weight. And the minimum weight actually results in a virus. And if you have a little bit higher, if you're at the sort of medium weight, you'll get a data. And then for a high level of weight, so for example, for Valkyriemon evolving to Toyagumon, it was 53 pounds. So that's quite heavy. So that's an interesting sort of thing. Another thing is, you may have heard me mention that the jogressing requires you to shake. That is not from the pendulum. This is completely new to the pendulum cycle. You have to actually reach the perfect number of shakes for jogress. The other thing is you can actually jogress with any Digimon that has a jogress. It will result in something, and what it actually takes into account is it doesn't take into account slots or levels as the original pendulum did, but it actually takes into account just the typing, so vaccine, data, or virus. So that's another pretty nifty thing. So you could jogress an ultimate with an adult. And obviously the adult would evolve into a perfect, and the ultimate would evolve into the super ultimate or the secret ultimate, which is another thing that's unique to the cycle. The super ultimates, as I said, are all completely unique to the cycle, and there might have not even been any in any other virtual pets. So To name a few, we have a couple of the ancient Digimon. We have Ancient Garurumon, Ancient Greymon, Ancient Sphinxmon, and I think a couple others. I'm just drawing a blank here, but I actually have worked out that there's sadly no Ancient Arismon, which is what matters. Anyway, another one is Valkyriemon, so that's fairly cool. That's on the Wind Guardians. You can also get, and the shell for the Deep Savers version actually shows this, I think. No, it's the Nightmare Soldiers, weirdly enough. It's kind of, the paint's kind of chipped, but you can see that's Moon Millenniummon. Now you may notice that this is the Nightmare Soldiers version, the version 8, but it's actually got Deep Savers, so for some reason Moon Millenniummon is actually, for some reason, a Deep Saver, and so is Pukumon, and I think that was, no, that's Gessamon, and that's Marine Devimon. So, but there, the paint, it's sort of super old, but yeah. So that's a weird thing. Each of the versions has unique shells, so if it's sort of this kind of cool colour, either in a dark blue, this sort of translucent design, that's a version 7, so the Deep Savers one. If it's sort of like an opaque colour, gold, silver or white, that's Nightmare Soldiers version 8. If it's sort of like a translucent but a darker colour, either black, red or purple, I think those are the, I'm not sure if there's any others, then it's a version 9 Wind Guardians, and if it's a weird camo pattern, that means it's a version 10 Metal Empire. And also something I noticed about every Metal Empire I've ever had my hands on, there's this weird sort of pixel shadow that follows the character, and it's been on a couple of versions of the Metal Empire that I've seen, and it's always a Metal Empire one, so I'm not sure if that's just because of how it was made, or if it's just luck that they have the exact same pixel damage, but it's just something to note. So yeah, those are the 4 versions of the Pendulum Cycle. Bandai Asia never made a version of the Virus Busters, probably because the typing would have been too hard. And also, the random encounters are also something that's unique to this. So you encounter a Digimon, you shake, and then you fight the random encounter. And also something I'm trying to work out at the moment is so losing random encounters doesn't count as a care mistake, but I'm starting to believe that losing or missing random encounters counts as, it makes your Digimon die sooner. Because I always get my Digimon to age 5 on these before they die, but other people have been able to have them go for much longer. So whether or not that means that I'm just missing the random encounters, and that has to do with how long my wow, Kakuamon's strong. So, which makes sense because it started against Vaccine. Anyway, so there's Toyagumon, who just lost. But the random encounters are fairly cool. I don't know of many virtual pets that have done that. I can think of the DMX having done that recently, but it's pretty newish as a feature. Well, these are super old, but yeah, so that's pretty cool. And so yeah, you can also battle Digimon in this functionality under training, and it's just a random Digimon. That's a big Mamemon, by the way, which I'm probably going to lose against, but whatever. Also, the number of shakes are always specific, like with all of the Pendulum virtual pet toys. And yeah, I'm obviously losing against the perfect level. Yep. But I'm not sure what number of battles and number of wins does in terms of evolution. That's the weird thing about the cycle, is that the requirements aren't all solved. Bandai never came out with any official evolution requirements, and actually it was only about 5 years ago where I started doing some research on it and realizing that the evolution requirements were predominantly weight-based, which is very weird. We haven't seen that as a requirement, but at least it's something unique. Something else that's fairly interesting to note about these is they have a really, accurate pendulum count. The original pendulums could be a bit sort of not reliable, but the ones in the cycle are fairly reliable. It's fairly easy to get the amount of shakes you need. It's very clear. There's no chance of it bouncing up and bouncing down and counting as 2 when you only meant it to count as 1, or anything along those lines. So it's fairly accurate in that way. And yeah, but Obviously, it's got a keychain. I think all the keychains differed for each version. This one's got the same as the old bricks, and this one's got like a latch like this. But as I said, I'm pretty sure I've said all this in previous videos talking about them before, because there wasn't really much information about these virtual pets, and because yeah, Bandai Asia only. But my opinion changes on them all the time. They are very annoying because you have to really pay attention to how many care mistakes you've made, how many overfeeds you've made, the current weight you have it on, and you have to sort of it's quite demanding in the way that you have to actually pay attention to what's going on and how many of each thing. It's just weird. Also because they're not 100% solved. I don't know what the amount of battles does. I'm not sure how many times I've trained it. I think that you have to hit the perfect amount of shakes twice in order to evolve, but I'm not 100% on that. And also the worst thing is that the version 7 appears to just... the evolution requirements are very weird. I can't work out how to get Gomamon. I got Gomamon once 5 years ago, but I can't replicate what I did to get Gomamon from that time, so I really have to sort of pay attention to that. Another interesting thing is that at the end of your Digimon's life, you'll get a ranking. I'm not sure what that ranking does yet, but maybe it's the trick to unlocking Gomamon. It is really weird because I can always reliably get vaccine, virus, or data, depending on how I raise these three. But as for the version 7, it's just different. I don't know. Maybe it was the prototype and then they sort of changed a few things to make them easier to use. And another thing is that each version seems to differ slightly in terms of the evolution requirements. So there's no real slot that previous virtual pets and the original Digimon Pendulum had. But that's pretty much all to say about it. There's a few different uniquenesses for these virtual pets, like the training mode is different for each version, and I've recorded a video on that before. It seems to have a pretty extensive roster, including the Super Ultimates, which is pretty cool. But in terms of like how demanding it is and how I didn't find out what the evolution requirements were until 5 years ago, and even then the evolution requirements are still question marks, because I think I might have been one of the first people to come up with the idea that it was weight-based, because nobody else did, and that was 2015, and these came out like 15 years prior, just about. So they're just weird that no one had any information. Like, how did anyone raise these as kids? Like, I can't imagine working that out if there's no official resource giving you the requirements or even a growth chart. There's just no information about these. And so it's kind of a weird one. I don't know who they made this for. It seems very weird. Bandai Asia likes releasing weird things. Like I also have here, and you'll notice the shell is the same, the Pendulum Neo, which is a pedometer digivice. It's not a virtual pet, and again, they've changed the keychain. And these are pretty cool, and I've mentioned these in a previous video, and I won't go into it too much, but the worst part is that there's no belt clip. You have to hold it precisely and shake it, so you can't really walk with it like a normal pedometer. It's just made for shaking, which just is bizarre. But there you go. So yeah, Pendulum Cycle's weird. Definitely, I feel like they wanted to continue making more of them, because I don't know why they just started at 7, which is weird because the original Pendulum didn't start at 6. So I don't know why that the Pendulum Cycle had to start at 7 or 6 if you count this. This is not a pendulum. I think Bandai Asia counts it as one. That's why they started at 7. But it's just a sort of weird thing. Would I recommend getting one? No. They're for some reason being sold online really surprisingly expensive. I paid for each of these, I only paid about $20 Australian, and this was like 5 years ago when I bought them. But now they're rocketing up to more than $100 each, and I don't think that they're really worth that. If you can get one for about $100 or less each, get one, but don't expect to enjoy it particularly. But yeah, so wouldn't necessarily recommend them. They're not fun to get into. They are kind of annoying. They always beep. They beep for everything. The good thing is their sounds are like the sounds from the Digivices, so when you win and lose, it has that same sort of sound effect that plays, that little jingle. That's pretty neat, but yeah, they're very loud and demanding, and if you're trying to aim for overfeeding, the rate of which the hearts go down is very slow. Same with if you're trying to aim for care mistakes. So some require like 4 care mistakes and 4 times overfed. So that's kind of weird. And that also might take you all day just to get to the adult level if you're going for that adult that needs 4 care mistakes and 4 overfeeds. And some Digimon only evolve to something with overfeeds. So, for example, Skullmeramon will evolve to Boltmon, but only with a certain number of overfeeds and only at 70 pounds. And same for Greymon to Metal Greymon, you need 3 overfeeds and at 70 pounds, or between 66 and 70 pounds. That's weird. So yeah, there's just some weirdnesses. I wouldn't necessarily recommend them unless you want something truly unique, because it is a truly unique virtual pet. And if you want something that's kind of a bit different, it's kind of a bit out there, it's not just like a brick or a pendulum, it's something different. It's something that Bandai Asia released after a bad trip. I don't know, it's just, they're really unusual, but I would only recommend them if you really want something unique. If you've done everything else and you thought that you wanted a bit of a challenge, I guess I'd go for them. But again, there's no proven evolution chart. There's just my Excel sheet and a couple of websites that I usually help out with to try to find some evolution requirements, but nothing is complete. Anyway, so that's basically that. As for my ratings, enjoyment 4, ease of use 4. I feel like that's a fair, easy rating. I have enjoyed them, but I've also not enjoyed them. So a 4 and a 4 across the table is great. And that's what I think about the Pendulum Cycles. Pick one up if you dare. You're in for a scare. I don't know. Have a lot of emotions about them. My opinions change every 5 seconds. Maybe I'll do a follow-up saying, oh, they're 10 out of 10 devices, best device ever. Whatever. Anyway, probably not. It's a lot better than the Kocha, and that's what I can say. Anyway, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!